Alrighty, it is Sunday morning. Let's have a look at this ceiling and just figure out how much touch-up work we've got to do today. So one of the challenges to this heating system is that it's got some lettering on it in black. So I'm definitely going to have to kind of go through that row again. And then, like I mentioned yesterday, where we've got this curve in the ceiling, we hadn't skimmed over that, so it's a bit dark as well as that corner. But the rest of it actually doesn't look too bad. I think there'll be a couple of little spots. So just gonna touch that up real quick. Then I'm gonna sand the walls. I realize I should do that the other way around, but I'm not going to because I just wanna make sure that if I need to do a third coat today before I do the primer coat on the walls, that it's dry enough to touch. So we're gonna get ahead with that, and then a bunch of sanding. Enjoy, I'm sure, a whole bunch of time lapse. It'll make my 8-hour day look like a couple of minutes. Okay, well, that's not perfect. In an ideal world, I would do another coat all across it once it's dried. We'll see if I decide to do that later. It would mean we need to take another run to get some more paint, and with Andy away, obviously I can't do that today. So I'm gonna just again use what's left in the can to touch up these black text bits, and then we'll move on to the walls. Yes, it has occurred to me that if I actually want to be able to paint these, I have to make sure that they are smooth, which I did not do yesterday, obviously, because it was just a first fix. So, just gonna do a wee little speckle here. Luckily, this only needs half an hour to an hour-ish to dry. So what I'm hoping is that my new insulated screwdrivers are going to get here in time to change the light switch out before I paint. So if they do get here before I'm ready to paint, that would be just grand, because I can do that while these are drying. So just put a wee bit more on here. Luckily they weren't too bad. All my little spatulas are in the other room because I had to wash them last night, so that's a little spackle amongst friends, right? And luckily, we don't have to worry too much about that bottom edge or the top edge up there, because we'll put skirting board around the bottom and we'll put some coving around the top. So I'm going to have to figure out what kind of coving I want up there. And I am going to put just a wee bit more on this insulation wall. But I'm painting this wall so it doesn't have to be perfect, it'll just be covered. job as we can around the house. So just a wee bit more here. And actually then, while I wait for deliveries and such to come, I think we'll go put a bunch of nails back in place so that we can walk around the house barefoot, or at least in socks, because it's quite dangerous around here since they pulled all the floors up to do the wiring. All right, let's go make some noise. I will actually spare you the noise. You probably know what it sounds like hammering a nail in. When they pulled out the subfloor, which was quite thin, they left all the nails sort of standing up because they ripped it out around it. So we had all these little nails just a little tiny bit stuck up. So I hope I got all of the ones at least out of the entryway. And when we put the subflooring down, you'll never know what happened. Okay, I've decided that even though this wall is going to come down, I think actually I do want to just give it a fake cover. What I don't want to do is waste a whole bunch of skull, because it is, 5 or 6 pounds a tub, which adds up quite quickly when you're doing things at this scale. So I'm going to use some edging tape along with just some toilet paper rolls to fill this in real quick. Tape it over. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just looking for a quick and dirty fix. So the first step is literally just to pop some toilet paper rolls into these cracks so that I don't have to use quite as much spackle to fill the holes. Okay, that should work fine. And then you actually have to stay and be the right size, or this whole thing doesn't work. A bit of spackling around the edges just to hold the tape. Okay, let's see if this will work. Normally, if you were gonna fill a hole this big, you would get some wire mesh. All I have around right now is chicken wire, which honestly is just a bit too big and would end up being more trouble than it's worth. So, we improvise. And since I've just had this paper literally sitting in a box for about 15 years, don't mind using it up. Welcome to Craft Time with Tania. Okay, do just a couple of strips. Now I know what you're thinking. My God, Tania, if I didn't know there was a giant hole there, I'd have no idea. It's okay. It's better than it was. It'll paint over. So, I'm not going to mess with it too much. Because that's probably about as good as it's going to get. I'll give it a wee sand before I paint it. And we'll call it good. 6:30. That's pretty much 5.5 hours of just solid movement. So I am just not really getting anywhere with this blue. So I'm gonna leave this little patch for Andy and he can decide if he wants to scrape it or use the stripper. But I've at least got all the nails pulled out of the picture rail. Literally all but this patch is done in here. One of the many quirks of this room is that there were loads of shelves in here. So there's all kinds of like shelf anchors. There's a screw coming through from the other side, which I think must be part of the stair landing, maybe. So, you know, it'll be a little tricky when we're filling in the holes. But tomorrow, kind of as I'm letting paint dry in the other room, I'm hoping to start spackling and skimming this room. I'm not going to put the guards down in here like we did in the other room because actually I think it made it harder for the skim to stick because it sort of peeled off. So I'm just going to skip that step and skim right onto the cement and hope that that works. But for now, I'm going to go take a bath before my husband gets home because I'm gross. We'll see you tomorrow with another very full day.